Hi everyone, I hope you had a nice weekend. I'm going to be going over what's coming up in week 14 as we start our portfolio. So this is our final assignment. So what you'll see if you look ahead are portfolio checks. So these checks are really meant to keep you on course with the assignment so that you're not doing it at the last minute. So just like we did the research logs one at a time, we're going to be breaking the portfolio into stages, so you're not overwhelmed by the assignment and you're working on each part at a time. So hopefully you have looked at the portfolio assignment, which was assigned to look at last week, and just want to highlight a few things about the assignment. Okay, so this is very similar. It's actually an extension of what you did for the midterm portfolio. And if you would like to use, if you are satisfied with what you did in the midterm portfolio, you can use one or both of those key terms and artifacts and explanations that you use for the midterm reflection as one or two of your 10 key terms for this assignment. If you look back at your midterm reflection and don't feel it was your best work, or you actually don't think that you chose a really good key term, I would suggest just starting from scratch then. So again, this is similar to the midterm reflection. The differences are, not the midterm reflection, the midterm portfolio. The differences are that you will have a cover page this time that provides some context for a reader as to what they're going to encounter in your writing portfolio. You're going to have 10 terms and 10 artifacts with explanations this time. You're going to also have key terms to choose from. So I thought that one of the biggest issues with the midterm portfolios was people not choosing key terms that were really the kind of core ideas, concepts about writing that everyone in the class has been exposed to through the course. So I think a lot of people were picking key terms from an article or two, or from their research. And while those terms may be interesting or important to you, you want to think about, well, what were all of the assignments about? What was everyone in the class? What ideas or concepts were everyone in the class exposed to? And those are the kinds of key terms you want to pick. So I have a pretty extensive list here for you to choose from. If there's something that I didn't think of that you think is relevant to your growth as a writer, please just email me. You can even ask it in the About the Professor. That might be a great place to run by any key terms that you want to discuss in your portfolio, but that maybe I didn't list. But if you do not ask permission to use them, then that you're not going to receive credit for them in the portfolio. So you can choose from any of these key terms, and if you want to use another key term, make sure that you run it by me. Okay, so for each of your key terms, you need to have one artifact from your coursework in this course. So that means something that you have written or created, whether that's a visual, a piece of writing. It cannot be an article that you read. Okay, you cannot have a screenshot of any of your sources. You could have a screenshot of a summary you wrote about a source if you feel that is an appropriate screenshot or artifact. You can also include a screenshot of peer review you did on other people's papers, but it should be something that you have written. Okay, and think about how you want to set up your organization for this document. So you probably don't want to just list all of your key terms and then have 10 artifacts that people scroll through and then have your explanation after that. I think the best setup is to have a key term, the artifact, and your explanation. Then a key term, artifact, explanation, key term, artifact, explanation, and so on. That's probably easiest for a reader to make their way through. And remember, you're always thinking about what's easiest for your audience. For each citation, you need to have a, it's not a citation. For each artifact, you need to create a citation where you do these two things. So identify the name of the assignment and a brief description so that readers outside our class can understand its context. Also, you want to have a reflection of about 200 words per key term. Okay, so the words in the artifact do not count as part of that word count. But what you're going to do is define the key term in your own words, explain how you see the connection between the artifact and the key term. So a lot of people think that it may be obvious, and it may be obvious to you. What is the connection between the artifact and the key term? But for me or an outside reader, it may not be so obvious. So you really want to spell that out and be as explicit and specific as possible. Okay, so also thinking about why that skill would be important to you now or in the future. And then finally, probably the last thing that you'll do after you've written everything is create this cover page, and these guidelines are pretty straightforward. You will also have a little introductory blurb about your portfolio, and I've put down here some things that you might include in that on that page, on that cover page. Okay, so what you're going to do for portfolio check 1 is you're building the shell of your portfolio in either Google Docs or Google Slides. I would suggest only using Google Slides if you really want to play around with design elements. Otherwise, you know, it's probably easier to just use Google Docs. This needs to be done in your group folder. You know that I sent out that announcement last week that some groups have shifted around, so you may have a new group member in your portfolio, so please make sure that you check that, a new group member in your group. So what you'll do is you're going to have 10 key terms, 10 artifacts, and labels. So for the portfolio check 1, you're setting up the shell or the skeleton of your assignment. So again, what I would suggest is key term, artifact. You don't need to write the 200 word reflections yet. That's coming up later, but you want to have your key terms chosen and your artifacts chosen, and you want to set it up in the organization that you will eventually use. So don't just put all the key terms at the top and then all the artifacts at the bottom. Put the artifact underneath the key term that it relates to. Okay, and then for Wednesday, you're going to do a peer review using the Google Comments feature for all of the group members, keeping in mind you may have some new group members. Okay, and then your revision plan is due Friday. And so you're going to discuss these elements of your what you plan to revise. And then you'll start working on portfolio check 2, which is due on next Monday. Okay, we are done with studios now, so we are only working on the portfolio. So please let me know if you have any questions, and make sure that you're reading the assignments carefully, and I hope you all have a great week.